at the start of the year, obviously AI dominated the conversation, but so much it feels like has changed so quickly in just 7 or so months. And that's what this conversation's all about today. How has the conversation around AI changed? So, just to start us off, in your opinion, what do you think has been the greatest change that we've seen or the biggest impact that AI has made so far this year?
Yeah, and just a level set, AI has been around for a couple of years now, but I felt like coming into 2026, it was a lot of momentum behind it. And
Hmm.
every time we were looking up what topics to talk about, what did people want to learn more about, it always came back to AI.
Yeah.
And so I think when the year started out, we received a lot of questions and a lot of inquiries about how to utilize the LLMs. And really, it was about content. And you could tell everybody really just wanted the easy content and just, hey, I want to post on social, go create this for me. And it was very content heavy. Now, what we're starting to see, I think, is more advanced.
Hmm.
And so people are realizing the power that comes behind it. And content is one small portion of that. But there's so many other capabilities that it's able to do. It was interesting because I was recently reading about how a lot of people are using AI now to debate themselves. So they're actually using it for when they have an idea or when they're unsure if their stance is accurate. They will go to AI and they're actually asking AI, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Here's why I'm thinking it. I want you to debate me and tell me what you believe, or ask me hard questions to help me figure out if the pros and the cons or whatever it is that I'm trying to research and my thought process is on track. So it's pretty interesting to see the changes and how many people are starting to rely on it so much more than they ever have.
Well, I love that you bring that up because it's so relevant for our audience who often has to have difficult conversations or overcome objections time and time again. So
Exactly.
to be able to consistently practice that skill and sharpen your messaging and how you have those conversations, it's an incredible tool. And at the beginning of the year, the message was just get started using an AI platform, just to start getting comfortable with it. And over time, there's a compounding effect. The more you use it, the more you'll want to use it for. And so whenever you get started, it might feel like you're just doing one or two things, but the use cases will open up tremendously. And so if you need inspiration, hopefully this conversation is that for you today. But Joe, another big impact that 2026 has had and how and that AI has had is now the options that consumers have in the marketplace. Can you talk a little bit to that?
For as far as the LLMs and the different options and the different way of searching, and I know we're going to go really really deep into this day when we bring on our guest today, as far as the consumer behavior and how it's switched, but everything's scattered now. So if we think back to the good old days, it was pretty easy to capture attention. Now the consumer has so many options. At first, it was okay, they are going to Google it and they're going to go search. But now you look at it, and with all the LLMs and all the different search features out there, I mean, think about the Android phones with the Gemini built right into it. You have
Hmm.
AI, that's being fed right to you every day, to where you can utilize AI for your search, your research, to again help you even ask questions that maybe you didn't even realize that you were not thinking of. And that's where we're really starting to see the different LLMs come into play. So ChatGPT, and I believe we have on the screen right now all of the different LLMs that are at least the most popular. ChatGPT is still sitting at the number one of all of them. It is still the one that people use for content creation. It's also the one that is steadily losing people because that's usually the one everybody starts out with. It's usually the first one, and then as you start to learn other LLMs, people start to move over and find preferences with the other one. So to speak very briefly about the other ones, Claude is the other big name that comes to mind. Very, very good at coding, very, very good at analysis and researching. So you see a lot of people who utilize Claude for that. Right behind that one is Gemini, so Google's product. And again, Android has it built right into it, so it makes complete sense. It's also built into the Google Suite, which again helps the Gemini name. And then behind that, we have Microsoft Copilot, which is pulled in, which we're going to talk a little bit more about here. And then you have Perplexity and Grok, who are down there, not nearly with as much traffic as the other ones, but they have their own things about them that make them special, in my opinion. Perplexity is the best fact checker out there that I have utilized. And Grok is really great for anything that's trending because it's the one that's tied into one of our social media channels.
Yeah, it's baked right in. And an interesting fact I want to share because it makes this conversation that much more important. ChatGPT's share of the global AI assistant market fell below 50% in March of
Mm,
2026. So that just gives credit to what you're saying is at the beginning of the year, and so often still happens, ChatGPT becomes kind of the practice. And then as
exactly.
your skills advance, as you mentioned, you start to splinter out. But here at AmeriLife, we use Copilot for all of the work that we do. And there's many, many reasons for that. But perhaps the biggest one is its integration with the Microsoft suite. If you are using Microsoft Word, Excel, Outlook, Teams, PowerPoint, then having Copilot as your Copilot, so to speak, makes incorporating AI into your workflow so much more natural and so much easier to get things done. Um, Joe, you had a phenomenal use case of Copilot recently that I think is a brilliant way to illustrate what we're talking about. You recently traveled overseas, you just got back from vacation, and you had a nice gift waiting for you when you got back.
I did. There were so many gifts waiting for me when I got back that I couldn't even count how many it was. So I asked Copilot to go in and count the number of emails that I missed just while I was out of office, and it was 723
Oof.
emails. And then what I asked it to do is I asked it to rank those emails based off of importance of the ones who it identified needed an immediate response, those that I could respond to this week, those that I can maybe delegate or hold off for a couple of weeks, and then those that I don't need any response because it's more of newsletters or informational ones. What was amazing is of the 723, there was four I had to respond to immediately. All the rest fell into the other categories, which was it was a stress reliever. I think when I first saw it, I was like, all right, okay, this is much more manageable than trying to check 723 emails. The other thing that I'll tell you that I love Copilot for before we move on is Excel. I was one
Yeah,
of
I was
those that
just
would
going to
have
say
to
that too.
Google. I'd have to Google all of the functions and figure out what is that,
Yeah.
what do I have to put in this cell to make it do what I want it to do? I don't have to do any of that anymore. I just ask Copilot. I tell Copilot exactly what I want it to do, and it takes care of all of it for me. Absolutely love it. So highly recommend.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. Excel is a fantastic use case. And to keep this conversation going, let's go ahead and bring in our guest today because this conversation is going to be made so much better by having him join us and give a firsthand experience of how AI has elevated his marketing, his business, and his growth.